Good day, everybody. It's Raphael, founder of Dart Frog Virtual Tours, and I have some interesting stuff today as I am ditching the Ricoh Theta V as my main device to capture my Google Street View tours. I'm still using it to make 360 content, but it will not be my core technology any longer. This guy beside me is what I'm replacing it with. This kind of tech is really going to change how we do things as virtual tour producers, and I'm very grateful that I was able to get my hands on this. Some of you may know what this is and some may not, but it's very exciting stuff because even though the device doesn't allow direct export to Google Street View yet, I have a workaround that lets me export these high quality panos using almost the same workflow as my Ricoh Theta. Stick around to find out what the hell this is and how it's replacing my Ricoh. Alright, so before I go over the workaround for Google Street View using this device, I'm going to explain what this is exactly for people who aren't familiar with the company GeoCV. In short, this GeoCV device uses smartphone tech to make really sweet 3D virtual tours with 360 walkthroughs, floor plans, and 3D dollhouse views. They're a direct competitor to Matterport, and the two companies are currently in a legal battle, which I'm trying to get more info to provide a good update on the case. No, I haven't forgotten about it. I showcased the features more in depth in my first video covering the lawsuit. I'll put a link in the description that takes you to the video at 3 minutes and 38 seconds where I start talking more about GeoCV. It should be noted that this is an older GeoCV device, which is why it doesn't look the same as the device shown in the video that I just referenced. Now, what makes this device different from a one-shot 360 camera like the Ricoh is that this makes 360 panels from 24 2D images, and its main purpose is to make 3D models. With Matterport's new program they're rolling out with Cortex and programs like Cupix, you can use any 360 camera like the Ricoh to make a 3D model, but not in nearly the same resolution that the other premium devices produce. So I'm going to show you how this device captures a 360 panel, and after it's done, I'll show you what one of these panels looks like as a finished product. There we go. Alright, so the head itself rotates, and then once it's in position, the phone rotates to get 3 2D pictures, and it repeats that process until it has 24 2D images. Then it stitches those into a low-res 360 so you can review the photo for any glaring issues so it doesn't ruin the 3D model later. If you use this and you look at the low-res photo, it'll scare you a little bit because the lighting's all off, but the GeoCV team fixes that in post-production. So now that I've briefly gone over how the device itself works, here's how you can use the device to create industry-leading Google Street View virtual tours. So after you go through You done? Alright. So after you go through the whole shooting process to capture a space, the 3D model is uploaded to the people at GeoCV, refined, and sent back to you. Now, it's not that simple, but that's all you need to know for this purpose. After you have the final 3D model back, that's when you can start working your Street View magic. So this is a 3D model of the gym that I go to, and this is the first project I've done mixing GeoCV with Street View. What you can do is actually download the 360 nodes you want to use directly from the tour in regular JPEG format. When I was shooting, as you can see, I was mindful of where I was going, so I knew I would have a good path for just a Street View tour because I don't need every single node that created this 3D model because that can be considered overkill for a Street View tour. The editor makes this pretty easy because all I have to do is select the nodes I want and then download them into a zip file. After I have the zip file, I extract it into another folder and then drag and drop the panos into my software, Pano2VR. Now, in a way, I don't mind that GeoCV doesn't have a direct export to Google Street View yet because it makes me feel like my money wasn't wasted when I bought a Pano2VR license, which it is not cheap, so that is good. So normally with my Ricoh, I would start by photoshopping the monopod out of the bottom, but as you can see, the GeoCV panels already come with the very top and bottom blurred out. At first, I thought it kind of took away from the 360 effect, but I realized that the only time that I look straight up and down is if I'm messing around with all the directions. If I'm really interested in looking at a space like a business or a gym, I'm looking at what matters. And the blur spots they produce do not obstruct much at all, and since GeoCV panels are used as tools as opposed to 360 panels for art, it's not necessary for the floor to be visible to create a seamless effect on the ground. Now, one thing that does differ with GeoCV for most 360 capture devices, there's no GPS data attached to it. But all you have to do is take the pano and drag it on the map so it has some GPS data to start with, and then you just move it to wherever it needs to be. So for this case, we are going to go to Upper Sandusky, located in the great state of Ohio, and I marked the general location of where this gym actually is. So we're just going to move this here and this here and that one there. So, and then you can just continue with the regular workflow that you would normally do for Pano 2 VR. I usually auto-link them and then move them around on the map and mess with the hotspots as needed in case some of the transitions don't turn out correctly. So then if we look around here, they're not in the right position, but let's just say you want to test out the transition. Alright, computer's a little frozen. Okay, there we go. But yeah, so you get the picture. It's pretty much normal stuff, and you'll still have to blur out like faces or sensitive info, so it's not really smooth sailing, but it's a little smoother and better pictures than the Ricoh will give you. And the finished product looks like this. You just click on that there. My internet's also slow, so these might load. So in the end, you get high-res images with a little less editing on your part. It's a lot easier to get the high-quality images with the GeoCV because you don't have to worry about weird stitching or maybe things not coming out as you hoped. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, any blurriness you see is just because my internet connection is kind of slow right now. Now, if you're just starting out in Street View, I would not recommend getting a high-end device like a Matterport or this GeoCV device unless you know that you have some jobs lined up or you can afford to wait for the money to come in, because these are expensive and it's easy to see why. If you know you want to stick with virtual tours, then I would definitely advise adding something like this to your arsenal so you can offer 3D models and Street View tours using one premium tool. I do not have any experience with Matterport, but I do know that they can export directly to Google Street View. So I don't think you would have to do any of this with Matterport, but being able to download all the panos, edit them, and snapping the HDRs from the tour is something that GeoCV prides themselves on in their mission for democratization. So if you use Matterport, I have something to ask you. I know that there are disputes on who owns the data with Matterport, how you can use it, and what format you can export the data in. So would it be possible to use this workflow that I just did with a Matterport device? I think that Matterport exports in OBJ files. I'm not sure if that's for the whole model or individual panos, but is it possible to export a Matterport pano in regular JPEG format to use just about anywhere? If you're a Matterport Pro, partner, or service provider, I would love to see your answer in the comments below, because I'd really like to learn more about that kind of stuff from people immersed in that space and who definitely know more than me. It's also better for the audience. If you personally want to know more about Pano 2 VR and how to use it, the team at Garden Gnome Software has a ton of in-depth tutorials on how to use it, so I'll leave that one to the experts. To anyone else in the virtual tour space, this is definitely not the death knell for virtual tour producers using point-and-shoot 360s. Especially with the Z1 out now, they still take amazing photos and people will still pay for them. But I think that you'll see 360 capture made from 2D creep into the market as the tech becomes more available. Well, that's all I got for today. So Matterport users, refer to the previous question. I would really appreciate your feedback, and I think the audience would too. And for everybody else, have an amazing day, and thank you for watching. See ya.